Around, we saw Jim Prentice on the campaign trail, an affable sort, engaging with everyone. But what do you expect behind closed caucus doors? Will Jim Prentice, the Premier, rule with an iron fist?
Jim Prentice's entire career, both in government and in the private sector, has been about bringing people together, about searching for compromise, about being a conciliatory guy. On this issue, though, he is going to be very tough, and there are going to be people that are going to be fired from cabinet, being asked to retire early to create by-election seats, being told that you're no longer welcome in our caucus, and he's got to do that. So we're going to see a shift where between Jim Prentice, what he's done in the past, and what he's got to do in the future.
Rob, if he leaves out a bunch of stalwarts from the cabinet table, from caucus, how much does he risk separating himself from caucus in much the same way Alison Redford did?
Well, you know, look, being popular goes a long way. And if there's a perception that what Jim Prentice is doing is gaining traction, you know, I think the party will stay united behind him. If, despite everything he does, the party still continues to sink in the polls and some of these MLAs, these jilted MLAs, think that they're going down anyway, you might see some people come out of the woodwork and you know, maybe disagree with him publicly or take issue with what he's doing. Yeah, that sort of thing. So that's going to be the true test. And the other thing for Jim Prentice, where he seems like, you know, he's kind of a big picture CEO guy, but he's going to have to get into the minutia. I mean, he can talk vaguely on the campaign trail about a return to more conservative budgeting, but does that mean he's going to go into some of these ministries? Is he going to make cuts? I mean, what's he going to do on education? What's he going to do in healthcare? What's he going to do with, you know, human services and, you know, the foster care? I mean, it just, you can go down the list. There's so much that he's going to have to really immerse himself in, and we don't really have any idea where he's going to go. I mean, we haven't got a lot of specifics from him in terms of a lot of these big issues, so that's going to be another test for him too.
Sheila, defections to Wildrose?
I wouldn't say right away. I think Rob's right. If he's not getting traction in, you know, 6 months' time, there might be, but I don't see that right now. It is interesting, though. He doesn't really know the people in this caucus. Maybe he doesn't really need to get to know them. He wants new people, but I don't think he's had a lot of time to go out and beating the bushes, finding his own candidates for the next election, which actually, when you think about it, is only about 18 months away. That's not a lot of time, and he's got to get organized on that front too, to bring in new people if that's what he wants to do. So those people will be watching him and saying, okay, has he revived the party? Can we win again with this? Are we going to go one more, you know, should I come out of the woodwork and run for him? So it's very busy looking ahead, and I think that it is going to meet those decisions. Is he going to actually build those 50 schools? My God, we've been talking about those for how many years now? There'll be a lot of very specific decisions he's going to have to come out with that people are going to like or not like.
Rob, you've had a chance to talk with him of late. What kind of a relationship will he have with media in Alberta, do you think, from this point forward?
I don't know. I mean, the jury's still out on that. I mean, he did do an interview today, and you know, he took a lot of questions at least. I mean, it seems as though in terms of the specifics of governing, maybe he's still got some catching up to do. But I'm curious to see how this will be going forward, because I think at the same time, he comes across as someone who does want to control the message, and if it's an issue that he wants to focus on, I don't think he wants to be distracted by other things. So at the same time, maybe they've learned a lesson that the way Alison Redford tried to control it wasn't working either. And, you know, I mean, Dave Hancock has been someone who seemed fairly comfortable in the job, and maybe he knew that he was leaving it soon anyway, but there was more of an openness from Dave Hancock in being willing to talk to the media and answer questions. So I hope it's more of that approach, but I'm not sure that we can say for certain yet.
Duane, what about the dynamics of the relationship with the Harper government, with the federal government? Will that change now?
I think one of the strengths that Jim Prentice brings to the table is going to be his relationships outside of Alberta. You know, this whole idea around market access, and I don't just mean, you know, dealing with the Harper government, of which he's still got a lot of friends and colleagues in there, but dealing with the other premiers and dealing with private sector and Aboriginal groups over, let's say, the Northern Gateway Pipeline. I think that's one of the major skill sets that Jim Prentice has, and which help win the leadership. The danger of that is if he's focusing on interprovincial issues, he can't neglect the problems that exist here in Alberta.
Sheila, what's the likelihood Jim Prentice will take a page out of the Harper handbook and downsize public service?
I think that's possible. I mean, he's said from the very beginning.
Public sector employees right now nervous?
Could be, but he's certainly said from the beginning he's going to run a very fiscally conservative government. Now, I think the revenues are going to look better in the spring than they have for the last couple of years, but that's possible. It's going to be very important what his first signals are. What's he going to do with those airplanes, for instance, if he wants to look new and different? He's got to set a tone, and we haven't seen a whole lot of specifics out of him, which is very interesting for a guy who ran for several months in the leadership race and managed to keep a pretty low-key policy approach. So those are tests we're going to have to see.
Okay.
I think he is going to be probably a little more closed in the media certainly than Hancock, and certainly than Redford, who we all know her approach ended up not working at all.
Okay, well, let's skip polling the pundits tonight, but Rob, I'll start with you in this last minute 30 that we have. What does he need to do most to shore up support for the PC party?
I think as Sheila said, I think if getting rid of the planes was order number one, order of business number one, I think that would go a long way. Removing some of the old faces from cabinet, I think will go a long way. That will set a tone, but it can't just be one or two things. It's going to have to really be a sea change. That it's just a different way of doing things on a consistent basis.
Duane?
There's a lot of things he can do very quickly. I agree. If he just did something bold and sold off the government fleet, that would go a long way. Changing the accounting rules in the budget, he could do that quickly. Bringing in a smaller, different cabinet, again, something he can do quickly. Then you look at the year and a half. Can he bring in a balanced budget? Can he make progress on Keystone, Northern Gateway? Can he go a year and a half scandal-free? So there's stuff he can do quickly, and then there's stuff that we're going to have to look at in spring of 2016.
He really does have a plate full, does he not?
Oh, does he? Yes. And he's also, I think, we'll wait and see over the year and a half, but his signals so far have been he wants to keep the party to the right, to, I think, and that fight the wild rose off that way. And we'll just have to see how wise that is, because one thing Redford did do is brought a lot of red Tories back out to vote, and I'm not sure what's going to happen to those people. They're going to be watching Prentice pretty carefully.
Well, next election, 2016. Lots of time to wait and see what happens. Thank you kindly for your thoughts tonight, folks. That's Sheila Pratt from the Edmonton Journal, Duane Bratt, Chair and Professor in the Department of Policy Studies at Mount Royal University, and of course, Rob Breakenridge, host with the Chorus Radio Network.